Hey, this is Jack, and this video is one mistake that I see people make in breaking up. Hey, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I'd really like to encourage you to subscribe to the channel. It's growing fast. We've got an awesome community here. I'm overwhelmed in a really positive way by the quality of questions, comments, and engagements, and I'd love you to be part of it. So this is going to be a relatively quick video. It's one thing that I've noticed in coaching people in the breakup space, or people who are trying to decide whether they're going to stay engaged with a guy, but maybe a real relationship and partnership just isn't on the table. And the thing I want to encourage you to notice is if you might be making the mistake of transitioning too quickly from being in a romantic space or possibility with someone into a friendship space or possibility. And I'm using the word possibility deliberately because you may or may not have been fully romantic or sexual, or however you would encode what is romantic with someone. But I'm saying possibility because if you've been orienting to someone like, hey, maybe they could be a potential person I'm going to date, maybe they could be a potential partner for me. If you've been in any of that space with someone, for most of us, it takes a while for that to really clear out of our system. Even if the relationship has been really disappointing for you, or even if you're like, well, he didn't really ever show up, I didn't even ever really call him my boyfriend, I didn't even introduce him to most of my friends or my family, or whatever your kind of yardsticks would be for a real relationship. If you've been oriented to someone that way, I would just encourage you to take enough time that is fully left out of your system, and from that place, see if a friendship is authentically what is wanting to happen. Oftentimes, it actually isn't. Right? That there are people who our orientation to them is really, if we weren't in a romantic connection, there wouldn't necessarily be an ongoing friendship that would be authentically the thing to pursue here. And the main reason why I'm asking you to do this is because sometimes we can operate a subtle defense that doesn't want to feel rejection, right? Most of us have a rejection story. Most of us have work to do around allowing rejection, or not feeling devastated when we're rejected, or not creating stories of rejection, or not preemptively rejecting other people in order that we shouldn't feel rejected. So most of us have some work to do there. And you might be wanting to not feel the pain of disconnecting from someone. And so you move it into a friendship. And you say, well, we weren't that serious. I'm not that heartbroken. And I actually want to encourage you to do the cut contact thing. To go for a minimum effective dose of time where you are not in connection, where your systems can reorient and recalibrate. Now, I don't think there's a holy grail of what that amount of time needs to be. It obviously, for most of us, will be proportionate somehow to the amount of time that we've been in connection, to the depth of time we've been in connection. But kind of let it go fallow for a while, because otherwise, you might not be fully feeling, you might not be fully grieving. I actually want you to grieve the connection, right? Now, for some of you, that grieving might just need to be one night, where you really reflect on it. You maybe journal, maybe you light a candle and you get really quiet with yourself. Maybe you offer some prayers and offerings or some gratitudes. Maybe you notice the things that were difficult and vow to practice or do differently. But something that, even if you don't want to do it as ritualized as that, something that just kind of honors, I'm giving this space. Now, sometimes that needs to be weeks. Sometimes it needs to be months. Sometimes it may even be longer than that. Who knows? It can have its way with you. You will know when you're actually in another space where you can look at that person and you don't get a kind of fluttering, you don't get a, oh, what if, or a kind of romantic or sexual possibility is quickly online. And if that stuff isn't cleared from the system, you probably aren't in a true friendship with them. A friendship isn't, oh, if you were available, I would date you. Right? That's not really how most real friendships are built. So we're trying to distinguish. And I know with some people there may be a little bit more nuance or gray in this territory, but let's try and deal in as much simplicity as we can, which is that for you to have a genuine friendship with someone, we want you to look at them in that way. And most of us need to feel the things that we need to let go of, be with, process through, grieve, allow, let all the possibilities die, let all the fantasies, let all the possible futures relax, die, be washed away, so that we can actually see what wants to happen authentically from that space. And if you've had a habit, and this doesn't mean that you can't end up being friends with people, by the way, I'm a fan of that where that's an authentic thing. But if you've had a habit of kind of moving on kind of quickly, this may be the actual barrier to you finding the partnership that you want, because you've got a lot of unmetabolized mini hurts, mini breakups, mini grievances that you haven't felt fully. I know in my experience of not doing this well in the past, there just came one day where it kind of all hit me at once. And rather than just having to grieve one relationship, I had to grieve a number of relationships, and I just cried and cried and cried. Now that's me. That may not be what you need, but I'm putting it out there because this sort of stuff can build up in a way that if you're not conscious to it, it might hit you all at once. And if that's the case, kind of go with it, because it's your time, and it's what allows, farmers allow fields to go fallow so that a better crop can take hold. You need to let your relationship terrain or the dynamic with that person go fallow so that something better can grow there. Otherwise, it's like a crop is trying to take seed and the soil can't take, because the soil is still tired, it's still used, all the nutrients are out of the soil from last year's crop, right? If you get the analogy. So are you allowing things to go fallow? Are you allowing yourself to feel things? Maybe you don't want to feel rejected. Maybe you actually need to learn how to be with that rejection, because if you keep avoiding it, your life is actually being governed by a fear of rejection. And you might say, well, that's not fair. I don't even really feel rejection, or I don't need to feel it. I can just move on. I'm quick at moving on. Anyone that's quick at moving on really needs to get curious about what's really going on there. Often people who are quick at moving on have a great ability to intellectualize, cerebralize, and rationalize, which are all defenses. They're just sophisticated ones. So that they reframe and say, well, we weren't good for each other. And maybe there's a little bit of reframe that can be healthy just to allow you to disconnect, right? Rather than seeing that person as like, oh my God, they're my person and I lost out. Like, oh, maybe we weren't going to work out. Or you know what? Yeah, maybe we weren't super compatible in these ways. I think a little bit of that reframe can be healthy. But if you're needing to use the reframe in order that you're not feeling, that's the problem. That's where I want you to dig a bit deeper into yourself, and if necessary, set aside time so that you can have a better quality conversation with yourself. You can feel what needs to be felt, you can grieve what needs to be grieved, and we can set you up for success for the next thing that's going to come into your life, because it will, and you want it to come into your life ideally at a time where you are, I've done my process, I've done my fallowness, and yeah, maybe there's an authentic friendship, but oftentimes the authentic friendship feels more compelling if you haven't done the grieving, if you haven't done the feeling and haven't done the disconnect. Because you're like, I'm still kind of attracted to this person, so of course I want to keep them around. And if I get to see them as friends, okay, it's not maybe the thing I wanted with them, or maybe I'm the one that broke up, but I still want to feel connected. Most of us don't want to be with our own disconnection. Right? So we avoid feeling disconnected, but it actually cheats us of a richer opportunity to be with what is, and it cheats us because we're then still kind of in the loop with someone. If you've been sexual with someone, that energy can take a while to really disconnect from the system. A lot of people say it takes at least 3 months really fully for that energetic connection, cord, however you want to think of that, to really relax and not be there. So these things take time, and it's almost like honoring yourself in order to do that. So I hope this makes sense. As always, questions and comments below this video. Please let me know. I love the engagement of this community. You guys have been so awesome with me. It's totally changed my life to have this level of response and engagement. It's asking me questions that I haven't had to ask, which is awesome. I love that. It's such a good stimulus. So questions and comments. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. You can just click the button and then click the bell notification next to that so you get updates. And if you haven't taken my free webinar, that's there in the link. Just click that, find a time that works for you in your time zone. It's been getting rave reviews. It's really powerful teaching material with my teaching partner, Clayton Olson. And we'd love to have you come and experience that with us. So again, thank you. My name's Jack. I appreciate you being here.